Yeah. Good morning. We're ready to begin the meeting for the Cable Commission for June 11th, 1998, and we'll first do a roll call.
Kurth?
Here.
Yee?
Here.
Gora?
Here.
Cox? Bassett for Cox? Shelby?
Here.
Natoli?
Here.
Natoli.
Natoli?
Yeah.
Is not here.
Not here. Sorry. Dickinson? Waters?
Yeah.
Collin?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay,
We
Robbie,
have a
yours
quorum.
is... Okay, we'll first announce that this meeting is being cablecast and videotaped in its entirety on the Channel 14, the Government Affairs channel of the Sacramento Comcast system. Today's meeting is being broadcast live, and then it will be rebroadcast on Saturday, June 13th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. Also, a VHS copy of this meeting will be available for checkout at library branches in the Sacramento library system. The other announcement is that anyone wishing to be heard on any agenda item that we have on our this morning needs to fill out a speaker's form and get that in to the clerk so that we know which item you're here on and wish to be heard on. And with that, let's see, I think we probably need to go just to the first items, correct? The call on Richard Spasto.
Good morning. We don't usually have these meetings in the morning. I don't know if we're all awake yet or not. We've been in the afternoons for most of a long time. Your budget is structured this year on your agenda. Recommended to the chair that we walk through the bigger issues for you first. There's good news, and one of your decision factors today, or decision issues this morning, is how you wish to allocate excess revenues of $1 million in the budget year. I've got a slide here I'd like to use to clarify a couple of points for you. And I will work with you on the numbers. If you recall, your direction to staff in April was to prepare a budget for you that tried to display all the options that you asked for, which was a 10% and a 20% increase for your community programming activities. Within the budget, I believe on page 3, you see all those spread some different ways. These numbers could be confusing, so let's clarify a couple of things first. Your $1 million excess is in addition to $600,000 to be distributed to the community programming entities. If you look on page 3, you'll see that we'll talk today, and as you process these numbers relative to your home jurisdictions, there are some percentages listed in the third block of numbers. In round numbers, the county gets 53%, the city of Sacramento 34%, Citrus Heights 8%, Folsom 4%, and Galt 1%. On the display, these numbers are rounded off, but in the calculations, they're out to 3 decimal points. First point is that your discussion of the million is over and above the 600,000. Secondly, the discussion of the million excess is over and above the 1.35 million base numbers you have for community programming in the budget. Finally, as I've looked at the cash flow aspects of the excess $1 million, you have $350,000 free cash as of August 1st, which is tied to the August 1st franchise fee payment or license fee payment from Comcast. And then their succeeding quarterly payments throughout next year will build to an additional $650 in May of '99. Questions? So those are base issues.
Yes, Robbie?
Rich, that $350 to $650, you say as their quarterly dividends grouped together, they'll be at $650. If their quarterly isn't one due around the first year, we wouldn't have to wait for May for the other. In other words, why aren't we taking $350 in January?
Right. No, that's an option as well. Historically, we've allowed the pot to get bigger and made one set of checks in May. That's been your budget. That's been the staff recommendation, primarily for administrative purposes, just in simplifying things. If the cash flow becomes an issue and you want me to look it out, break it out each quarter.
If we got in that dire straits, we maybe have to have you cut a check early then.
No problem.
Okay.
It's just that we've rolled everything forward. In times past, you've actually waited a couple of years to let your reserve build and move forward. But yes, for your background, the franchise fee payments, license fee payments are due 30 days after the end of the usual quarters. So March 31st is a May 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Jimmy?
Yeah, Rich, the $600,000 that is scheduled to be paid to parent entities, that's above and beyond the $1 million that we're talking about.
That's correct.
And the $350 we already know about back in August. We know about coming up in August '98, and the $650 is the anticipated additional surplus in May of '99.
Yes. The only assumption in any of this is that the cable companies continue to make their regular and routine payments.
Is that a conservative estimate?
Mildly conservative. These are projections based on my projections and talking with Comcast and looking at their latest rate increase. It's conservative. I don't think it would be less than that without some major environmental changes in the industry, but it could be a bit more.
Yeah.
From a, Jimmy, from a budgeting standpoint, I had discussed with Rich breaking out the 350 and the 650 instead of showing it as $1 million, because there had been discussion at the meeting before that last meeting. I missed the last meeting. The meeting before that, there had been considerable discussion and concern on the part of members of the Board of Supervisors that they wanted to show that money and they needed that money in the budgeting. And that's why I had him break it out so that we could just deal with it separately.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question as to what would be the potential date of distribution for each of these items, the 600, the 350, and the 650.
The 600 has been recommended in your budget for the first week in May.
Okay.
The 350 you could authorize and direct for the first week in August. The 650 is also, as indicated there, planned for the first week in May.
Okay.
If you ask me to distribute, as Mr. Waters raised, if you directed that the distributions be made as soon as possible after their receipt, I may have to adjust the budget a little bit, but not a whole lot because of the interest accrual. But that would not be a major item.
Yeah, that was my last question, is that with the money sitting in the account, is it accruing interest?
It clearly is. Our interest projections for next year are at $60,000.
Okay.
So if you distribute it early, we'd probably reduce that by about half. But $30,000 in a $3 million overall budget is well within our range of other adjustments.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Rich, you want to go on?
Looking at this issue first, what I'll do with you, if you like, is that as you look at options, I will key in and change the numbers for you. This is a copy of the chart that was included in your budget. There's some other pieces below this. I've tried to show you at the top, not on the screen right now, but on the top of page 3, this was at Mr. Waters' request, a breakdown of the support provided to your community programming entities by each of your jurisdictions. So, for example, here, if you wanted to look at what, percentage-wise, just so you can see what you're putting into the overall programming effort. If you looked at the city of Sacramento, this is at the top block on page 3, and looked at SECC, at the Education Consortium, you see that the city is putting, the city's share being contributed to education programming is a little over $106,000. So that's your base. And then as you move down on that page and look at the block, the plus 10% and the plus 20% are displayed there to show what the increase is to each of your community programming jurisdictions. The increase would be then at the next block down of what your parental jurisdictions are contributing to the overall community programming effort. And then the chart at the bottom shows what's left over for additional distribution, if you so choose, to the to the parental jurisdictions. On Monday of this week, I gave you a supplemental spreadsheet based on the chair's request to show what the numbers would be if you decided to move $350,000 as soon as possible to the parental jurisdictions, and then discuss today the balance of the 650.
Right.
So you have a fair amount of numbers here. With that, I'll support you with questions as you might ask them, and try and help you internalize all these numbers.
And being new, I'm trying to get this clear. In the funding distribution tables on the Citrus Heights, the $101,000 is the contribution that we give to support
Community
programming.
That's correct.
And then down below would show your incremental increase. It's just not presented the same way. It's presented horizontal rather than
try to give
vertical.
it to you both ways.
Yeah. Okay. Rob?
Thanks. Just another background question. What are we statutorily required to spend on community programming?
You have no statutory requirement to spend anything on community programming. It has been by your policy that you have
so this
contributed.
is a completely discretionary expense on the part of the board?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Historically, you have been quite generous, but there is no statutory requirement.
I'm sorry, just one follow-on question to that. Are there industry norms for this figure? What do other jurisdictions do?
There's much variance. There's been some research done. I can say that I believe Sacramento to be on the high, probably very high side of what's distributed. The history here, Mr. Kurth, goes back to the award of the cable franchise and the expectations created in this community in 1983-84. At that time, the franchise award said that the cable company would provide $1.25 a month per subscriber for community programming, or almost double what is being talked about here. In 1988, a series of litigation resulted in two things. One, the public entities absorbing the cost for community programming, and that immediately took the level down to about half. And secondly, that the community entities would receive only about half the franchise fees that all other jurisdictions do in the country. You get about 2.5% of gross revenue, maybe slightly over. All other jurisdictions, virtually all other jurisdictions under federal law, are at 5%. So that was the change. The issue is relative to the expectations created in this community for community programming.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yes. Okay, Jimmy?
Rich, along the line of your comment there, that I heard you mention that we have been, I guess, very liberal in granting increases. Could you expand on that?
I don't have a comprehensive study, but I cannot find another jurisdiction in the state that puts the level of support that we do into community programming.
Yeah. In other words, we have been generous in giving our grantees the amount of money that we have.
You have certainly been strong supporters of community programming.
Right. Have we ever been in a situation that, given a situation where we might be in a financial difficult situation, have we ever reduced the grantees' funding?
Only once, and that was at the point in time that we made the multifaceted settlement with Sacramento Cable Television. This was, I got to get the date right, I think August of '88, as I recall. Yes, the community programming grantees were told then that their expected growth of $1.25 per subscriber per month would be reduced significantly. And at that point in time, yes, there was a major reduction to expectations. I don't recall what it actually meant in hard dollars. Since then, you have either been consistent or have increased. I'm not aware of a decrease in funding to the community programming entities.
Rich, the reason I'm even making those comments is not so much that I want to ask them to reduce, or we want to ask to reduce the amount of money that we want to grant. But I want to be sure that grantees are aware that if we do increase it, that it's not a given that it's always going to stay that way. In other words, I want the opportunity and flexibility that if we ever get in a situation where we have a difficult financial situation here at the commission, that they should expect that it's a two-way street.
Yes, I can tell you that your operating documents between yourself and your community programming grantees have language in that essentially state that.
All right.
That there is no guarantee
Yes.
of funding. But you have directed staff that the base amount to plan for in each budget is $1,350,000 or $352,000. So you've set a base, and you work from that base. You have never discussed going into that base.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a presentation then by the grantees, I believe. Is this on the A? On the budget? Okay.
No.
Yes, indeed.
We all can. So you can.
So okay.
I some clarification.
You push over there to get this.
It's already on.
No, but see, we don't.
I think they already had that already. We'll just take turns.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Penny Castanis, and I am from the Sacramento County Office of Education, and I'm the chair for the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. And at this portion of the agenda, the only thing that I will be bringing to your attention is that in the past 10 years, there has only been one time that there has been an increase to the base grant of 20%. So it's not something that we have come to you each time and ask for more funding, but this year seems to be a year that hopefully you will be considering a 20% increase in the annual base support, enabling us to expand our local programming. And now the rest of the other two people that are here to represent their entities will just say something very quickly about the budgeting.
I'm Ron Cooper, Executive Director of Access Sacramento, and the document that you just were handed, one point that I think is very important, and I'm particularly curious in terms of Councilman Yee's question regarding support and Mr. Spasto's reply in the sense of that Sacramento has been particularly generous. There's never been a doubt in any of the grantees' minds how much we appreciate the funding and support of the organization of the Commission. And Mr. Spasto was correct. That was born of the process of how cable came to Sacramento, the tremendous community support for cable, primarily because of community programming. I'm also aware that in the state of California, again, Mr. Spasto is correct, Sacramento, in regard to community programming, does fund at a higher level than other major cities. However, the city of Los Angeles, the city and county of San Francisco do receive franchise fees, and in general, it goes into government-related programming. So the unique issue here in Sacramento has been the dedication of this commission in terms of funding organizations creating programming other than government community programming. It's just a different style of doing community programming in the city of Sacramento than has been in other cities of California. If you look beyond the state of California to our neighbors to the north, Oregon, there are many cities, notably Portland, which has 3 cable companies, has an abundance of community programming, Arizona, Tucson in particular, Phoenix to some degree. And so there are many cities around the country. But yes, in California, you've been very generous with your support. We really appreciate that. And just in conclusion, one other point that I think is very important, and that is that all the money that's derived through the licensing fee from Comcast Cable is because Sacramento County residents choose to sign up for cable, pay their bills every month, and choose to elect to expand their monthly bill by taking additional services. It's a percentage of the gross revenue. If Sacramento County residents do not take cable, we're not talking about any money. So the community programming grantees feel that the funding that we receive provides a direct benefit to Comcast cable subscribers, and we choose to believe that many of them, in addition to the many other fine services, elect to continue and perhaps even expand their relationship with Comcast based on the unique and quality local programming submitted by and for your constituents. And we appreciate your support. Ask for a 20% increase to our base grants.
Thank you.
Turn it over to Jan Tillman.
Good morning. I'm Jan Tillman, the Executive Director for Programming and Production at KBIE. And I will just echo my colleagues' sentiments and thank all of you for continuing to support community programming in Sacramento. Some of you, Ms. Cullen in particular, have been part of this partnership that it truly is since its inception, I believe. And we have come a long way, I think, in terms of our understanding of the expectations and in service to the community. We came together to make this request of the Commission. We have found over the years that it's sort of a streamlined process, a little bit simpler in terms of the amount of information and contact that we have with each of you as we approach this kind of process. I have appreciated the things that we have heard from Commission members about their respect for the services that community programmers have been providing, and echo the request that you please grant us the increase. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard on item 8? Didn't have any other cards on that one. Okay.
Ms. Collins?
Yes. Jimmy?
Rich, I have a question on the item before us today. If we choose to raise the grantees' request, would that be a permanent thing, or is this a one-time thing? Because we don't know what the surplus might be next year.
Totally at your discretion. The only direction you've given staff so far is direction that the base amount would be $1,352,000, and you raised to that base some 3 years ago. It would be your discretion whether to allocate a one-time or a base change.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's a question I'd like this commission to consider very seriously, because I don't want to put us at a level that we're locked in. And if the surplus or excess funds are available, then we can consider it on a year-by-year basis. So when this question comes before the board, I'd like to maintain that base support and then decide only on the surplus distribution.
Rather than build it to the base.
That's right.
Okay, yes. Robbie?
What you just said, Rich, was that they haven't had a raise in 3 years, if you will, for simplify, I think, what you just said. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe that's right. 3?
So, and Jimmy, are you saying that we could call this a bonus, if you will, so we still stay at the baseline of 1.3?
That is correct.
A decision if we're going to give them a 10% or a 20% bonus next year?
Yeah, I'll let the board here decide whether it should be a 10% or 20%, but I'd like to maintain the base currently where it's at.
Okay. I will again indicate that from the standpoint of what I understand is the position of members of the board of supervisors, that they want the 350 considered separate and apart from the 650, regardless of the distribution, so that that money helps with this year's budget. And the county share of that would be approximately what?
Of the balance?
Of the 350.
Of the 350, the county share is 186,221.
Okay, 186,221.
I put that on your screen. It's the bottom part of your screen now. Of a 350 distribution, the city share would be 118,629. Citrus Heights 26,334. If you're following with me, Folsom 13,773, and Galt 5,044.
So, just
So
to
the city of
understand.
Sacramento, the county of Sacramento is into a status quo budget. And in fact, we have employees who've gone 1 year, 2 year with no increases, period. We've cut over $100 million worth of programs out, $110 million out of our budget. At this point, just to try to figure out how we're going to handle the budget that's coming up this next week, as we discuss it, the county of Sacramento needs to have that 186,221, at least its share, moved and applied in August to its own budget. So that's a separate issue from what perhaps the jurisdictions might want to do with their portion, but at least speaking on behalf of the county of Sacramento, that's the direction that the county's headed in.
Okay.
And I don't know how we divide those issues, but yes.
I had a question on the charts you provided at this point. On page 3 of the staff report, in the box under programming increase alternatives, if you look at the increment section where it talks about a total balance of 135,229, and then on the 2-pager that you handed us with the parental entity excess revenue, it has 135,230. But if you look at the base or the numbers that are part of that 135,230, they're not anywhere near similar to the numbers that you have under the increment financing in the other box.
Two different displays, I think, Mr. Bassett. One is
the totals come up to within $1, but the constituent numbers aren't similar.
if I'm with you, one display is looking at the impact on the county, and the other display is looking at the impact on the programming entities, if I'm tracking your question correctly. This is complicated stuff. I tried to show you what a 10% increase does to each of your programming entities.
My concern, though, is that the numbers aren't adding it, because I see there's a sheet here, community programming component shares option, and then it has the parental entity excess revenue May 1999. If you look at the box on that sheet, under the increment programming support, it starts off with the county at 71,000, then the Sacramento 45,000. It comes up with a total of 135,230.
Correct.
If you look at page 3 of the commission budget, in the box where it talks about increment, you have a total of 135,229, which is a $1 difference. But if you look at the constituent numbers, they're significantly different. In one box, you have a county of 71.9. This is 69.
So they want.
So there's no way they could add up to the same number.
They want 270.
Okay, I better go back and look at that.
Right.
And
So if you
don't know what you've got right now. I've got more numbers tracking than I can handle.
right.
Yeah. Well, this.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. See,
This number here
so I know that
is
is,
$1
yeah,
here,
but these are
but these
different.
numbers are right.
Okay, we're going to have this worked out in a second. The threshold issue for members of the Board of Supervisors, and now Supervisor Natoli is here, is that
229, but look at the difference in the
if we're going to take a motion on, at all on this excess revenue distribution, just as a policy issue, the board does want the figure to show as 650, not as $1 million.
This is a
Because
different
they
spread.
want the
This is
350
spread.
distributed
So this is
by
county.
August.
Ms. Collin, I wasn't aware that the Board of Supervisors were going to try to separate this $1 million into the 350 and the 650, and
I think Mr. Bassett is okay
It was
now.
about four months ago we discussed it, and discussed it with
access.
Rich.
So these are
And
the
then I missed the
programmers.
one meeting where evidently
That's
that previous meeting's discussion got lost and
All right.
wasn't brought forward by Rich.
the one thing that I don't like to do, of course, is have disproportionate
I was looking at
sharing of the grantees' amount of money. So if the Board of Supervisors or the county does not want to provide any revenue out of the 350, then we're essentially just talking about the 650.
Yes. But that 350 spreads across all the jurisdictions. Only a portion of it's the counties, 186, 221.
I understand that, but the logic is that I don't like to start having different proportions from each entity.
No, there wouldn't be.
There wouldn't be. One
There
of
wouldn't
the,
be if the initial response is just to say the figure is 650. The 350 is allowed for the jurisdiction's budgeting for this fiscal year,
Right.
and certainly the county's counting on it.
All right, but that'll be all across the board. None of the entities will provide any revenues out of the 350.
And you don't have to.
don't have to.
No.
The process is
Be
that,
distributed.
right. Several things that you've always gone by. One is that you've always distributed according to population amongst the parental entities
Right.
at the same time and equally. Second is since 1988, you've always maintained the same relative relationship of funding to the community programming grantees.
That's right.
Okay,
So the ratios have stayed the same in both cases to the parental entities and the programming grantees for some 10 years.
Now, and I understand. That's what I'm saying. Is in response to Ms. Collins' comment that if the county do not choose to provide any additional funding out of the 350, then the other entities should be in the same position.
Yes.
Yes, but that decision gets made here with you. It is not one that gets made at the county. It's
Right.
what you decide.
Right. It's what the
Right.
Cable Commission decides, and I'm just
Okay.
stating what the
Now,
members.
taking that one step further, now the question is whether we want to continue with discussing the 650 at 10%, 20%, or perhaps go to 25% in lieu of the fact that we're giving them giving the grantee zero on the first 350.
Again, all your
Well, that's a
discretion.
separate discussion.
That's a separate discussion, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to get to the threshold issue of whether it was the million,
I understand.
and certainly the county wasn't counting on that. They weren't counting on a million, they were counting on the 350 and the 650 being
Gotcha.
handled differently.
Got it.
And,
I have a question.
okay, James, and then we'll come back to Rob, and then Robbie. Okay.
Let me just make sure I understand. The 350 request is simply be divided between the jurisdictions
Yes.
completely. If there's any increase granted, it'll have to come out of the 650 pot.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay, Rob? Sure.
I'm just trying to sum this up then in my head. There doesn't appear to be any discussion of actually cutting the base that we give to the community programming effort. So then there's a request before us to either give them an additional 135,000 or to give them another 270,000.
That is correct.
It's kind of a cash flow issue as to whether it comes out of the first 350 or the last 650. But on that question as to whether we contribute an extra 135 or an extra 270, I'd be interested what folks think on that. Myself, this in essence is City of Sacramento general fund money and can be spent for any public purpose by the City of Sacramento. So I find myself debating if I had $135,000 in the city budget, given all the tensions that we have and pressures for funding, is that what I would choose to spend it on? I'm just curious what other folks think.
Okay, we'll get to that discussion. Rob?
Yeah.
Rich, you can help me. I think I understand. I just want to clarify, because I support Isla's idea. We take the 350 and split it up amongst ourselves and leave the entities at their base at 1.3. That leaves us 650 down the road. If we give them 10%, that's 515 left over. If we give them 20%, that's 380,000 left over. Is that my?
That's exactly correct. That's the display in front of you now.
That would be distributed amongst the
Jurisdictions.
380 or 515, whatever decision we make would be then equally divided as per our formula amongst the entities, correct?
Upon your direction, yes.
Government entities.
Yes,
Government, okay.
you've got it. That's the display in front of you, and
Yeah, that's where
you've got it.
Okay, Don?
Yep. The 20% then, is it being proposed that would be added to the base annually? Is that, or
Well,
just
that
bonus, 1 year
discussion is yet
bonus.
to come.
okay, so you have not had that discussion then. But just for clarification then, it's been asked here a couple of times, then the discussion has been around how to split the 1 million And at this point, it's suggested then to be the 350 and the 650. 350 be allocated among the parent entities, and then the 650 to be available, of which the request for the 10 or 20% would come out of that, at least as the discussion is going. Is that correct, Rich?
That's the chair's that's the chair's option. Yes.
Okay.
Staff has made no recommendation, but that's what the chair asked to have displayed for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and Don, that was because of the discussion at the Board of Supervisors regarding the status quo budget, where this 350, our share of it was already built into the status quo budget that we're addressing next week. So that was why, we need an initial motion, I think, just to separate those two items out.
Okay. And the that would be consistent with the amount of money that was allocated last year, Isla? Is that what you're saying, the status quo budget? The 350?
The 350 was
which
were
our share would be
figures
the
that we had about 4 months ago from Rich. I think it was about 4 months ago, or more than 2 months ago, that got built. That 186 then is what got built into the county status quo budget.
Okay.
That's why we need the request to have this item, that the 650 be looked at instead of the just separate out the 350 for the distribution in August to the jurisdictions.
Okay.
But we need a motion to that effect.
Okay, if you have all the discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion to that effect. Any other discussion, though, before? Okay, if not, then I would move that of the $1 million that's shown for excess revenue, that the $350,000 be made available for distribution to the parental entities in August per our, at least for the county budgeting, but I think for the budgeting for the various entities. So.
Okay. Okay, moved and seconded. Could we call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, the motion?
The motion at this point is to separate out for distribution to the parental entities the $350,000 in August. Okay, you want to call the roll?
Kurth?
Aye.
Yee?
Aye.
Gora?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Natoli?
Aye.
Bassett for Cox? Waters?
Aye.
Collin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now in terms of the excess revenue distribution now on the $650,000, I think that there has been discussion of, just to recap it since Mr. Natoli was not here, there was discussion of keeping the base the same and considering whatever amount would be added in proportion to the grantees as a bonus not built into the base. And while we have figures for 10% and 20%, you could also consider 5%, 25%. You just have to move the figures around. And I've already stated these are tough, lean years for government too.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Don?
Yeah, just and I'm familiar with the request because I think this has been pending for a couple of months from the various groups. That, in my thinking, as I've thought about this, there may be some merit to looking at building some into the base and then considering the remaining portion to be bonus or excess distribution, because I think that as I recall and the information's been presented, that there has been no increase in the base. I think going on, is it the fourth year now, Rich? Fourth.
This would be the fourth.
The fourth year, and that it would seem reasonable to me to, in light of budget circumstances, because they're all on budgets as well. But this is cable TV programming, so I think it's correctly directed to that effort. That maybe we build some into the base and look at again in another budget round. But there hasn't been any increase in the base, and so I would maybe throw that out there for some discussion rather than just to say it's all one-year revenues, is to give us some in base, and I think we're going to see some growth. I don't know what the projections show, but you must have some idea where we're headed next 2 to 3 years, Rich. And I haven't seen the years here where we've actually fallen below. It always seems we exceed the expectations, and so in light of that, I'd be willing to build some into the base.
It's safe to say that the numbers should go up, at least in the short term. The competition that's been predicted for the cable television industry hasn't materialized, and rate regulation goes away next March. Yeah, or actually April 1st or March 31st. So what that does to the trends and patterns of your license revenue will be changing. But to say that it will go up, yes, I think it will go up.
Okay.
Okay, let me just indicate that the difficulty that I'm having in terms of doing anything about building a base is because that's an expectation. I think it's a real expectation on the part of community groups that you aren't going to cut that base. And I think that when you're looking, at least at the County of Sacramento, we've cut the heck out of the bases of many of our programs. We simply don't even have programs anymore. Anyone who sat through any of our budget hearings knows that our Director of Animal Control doesn't even have a secretary. We can't pick up dead animals. You know, there's all sorts of things we cannot do. And those are the kind of pressures that we're always feeling about slicing away a base. So when you build in something to a base, you build in too much expectation that program is always going to be there. So that's one hesitation that I have about building a base. I think the second problem that I have, wearing two hats, you worry about a cable commission. You want a good, viable cable system. People expect that. That's what they want. At the same time, I can't remove the hat as a county supervisor either when I look at what is in store for all of us. And I don't care if you're a city or you're a county. If they remove the vehicle license fee and don't backfill it, we're all in a world of hurt. That's $84 million hit on our budget alone. And, I suppose each city has calculated what's going to happen to them.
11 million.
Yeah, 11 million. With that kind of, nonsense going on over at the Capitol, I think all of us are trying to be really, really prudent this year in what kind of commitments that we're making. I know we're sure doing a very conservative budget. So that's the cautions I have as we address this issue. Okay, Robbie?
I'd have to agree with that, what Isla said, because of the fact that, and I agree, Don, they haven't had a raise in 3 years. Their bases stayed the same. This is the 4th year. But as Isla points out, many of our bases have been shrunk very badly, including the police department, the fire department, the city of Sacramento. So again, I think that my personal feeling is if we handle this as a bonus, if it's available like it is now, and make the decision whether it should be 10 or 20, and again, they're fortunate they haven't been cut like the police and fire. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else? Jimmy?
Yeah, I tend to have to agree with both you and Robbie Waters. It's, when we look at these increases here, we have to understand that whatever the parent entities don't get, or whatever we give to the grantees, the parent entities don't get, which is part of our general fund. And exactly what Robbie Waters says, that we've had to close out some truck companies in our fire department, cut our police department, parks and rec, and it goes on and on. So it's a question of priority. Where do we want to put the money? I think all of us on this commission certainly support public television, and I certainly want to give them an increase when we can. And so to that extent, Don, I guess I'm more conservative than you are. I'd like to keep the base at where it is, and whenever we do have a surplus, I'm certainly more than glad to look at it at this board meeting to see whether we can distribute additional funding to our public grantees.
Okay. James?
I too share the concern about the motor vehicle fees, because we all lose that. We're all in dire straits. Maybe one way to look at this is to grant some increase, and then next year look at where we all stand in terms of projections, in terms of budgets and revenue. And then at that point, maybe we could add something to the base if the forecast is different.
Yeah. I think, we know every year we're at the mercy of the legislature. That's one of the joys of local government, where this is an election year, so they're playing fast and loose with issues that are election related for their own elections, but they could be decimating local communities. And what we thought was going to be a fairly routine budget year has certainly turned out to be far from that. Robbie?
Question for Rich. I'm not sure if you can answer this off the top of your head, but the chart shows that 10% would give Metro 21,000, 20% would give them 42,000. Do you have any ideas what you'd do with that excess money?
Right, as you see deeper in our budget, we have again deferred our major equipment upgrade. I gave you the brief on going to digital because the budget, the amount of money we've saved, with about 200,000 saved, is about 40 or 50,000 off from what the equipment we've spec. So what we would do is I'd put it together, I'd put it into the savings pot, come back to you in a month or two and say, we've now got a match between what we'd like to do, what the costs are, and the money we've saved.
Go to digital.
To go digital. That briefing I gave you a couple of months ago was the design, but I'm not there yet. I can't make it work yet.
So is it fair to say if we only gave you 10%, you wouldn't be able to do digital?
We're close. I can't say we wouldn't be able to. The prices on those
Could
things.
if we gave you 20.
We're getting real close.
Okay. The only other question that I have is if you want to defer this until after you hear from all the different grantees on their budgets. Defer making the decision in terms of a 5%, 10%, 20%, 25%. You want to wait and hear their budget request first and then make a decision on the 650?
When would that be?
That would be right away.
That's item B.
That's item B. And we could just, we're going to hear the community programming grants, and then we're going to hear budgets. And when you've heard from each one, then maybe at the end of that, we can make a decision. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Unless you have to leave.
Well, I unfortunately had a scheduling conflict when we moved to the new time, so I need to leave in a few minutes. But
Okay.
I believe it still leaves you with a quorum.
Well, if you want to make a decision now,
Well,
we
I'm
can.
just saying, can we make an intelligent decision on, I think we know the dollars, and what they present to us, I don't think would impact our decision that much.
Well, Ms. Collin, if we don't discuss it, then I was vacillating between whether I should go with the 10% or the 20% of their budgets. But looking at the numbers here, 10% is 135,000. Not knowing about the 350, now intending to more or less go with the 20% of what's left. Now, with 20% of the 650 would be about 130,000, and it goes back to 10% of the budget, which is about 135,000. So I, without any further discussion, I'm certainly ready to support that, but I'm willing to listen to other arguments.
You've got one more procedural aspect here, is that if you decided to augment the community programming budgets by a number, 10, 20, or anything as Supervisor Collin has suggested, I've recommended in the budget that you would put that in your budget, but make the actual award of those dollars subject to a budget amendment that the grantees would submit to you, telling you in detail what they intend to use with the augmentation. The budgets before you today were built according to your instruction in April against the base budget of $1,350,000. So you don't know now, unless it's built into their presentations to you, the details of what any increase might be used for. So you could make the decision to add to the budget allocation, to the budget authorization, subject to a mini budget hearing, if you will, sometime in one of your succeeding meetings.
So Mr. Yee, then your proposal would be to make a one-time grant to the community programming activity of $135,000?
That is correct.
Okay.
Keeping the base where it's at.
And that 135,000 will be spread over all the grantees and it will be shared equally by all the jurisdictions in keeping with our policy.
And so that's a 10%?
Yes.
As opposed to...
But are you suggesting that before we hear from the grantees? I think
Yes, because we do, I think most of them feel that they're ready to make that decision. And then Rich has suggested that we come back and they will tell us in a subsequent meeting how to use that in their, because their budgets before us today do not have it built in.
Madam Chair, I would just say that I think that in deference to the community programmers, it would be, we certainly can take the motion now, and if that's, there's one on the floor, but I would ask that we at least give them an opportunity to talk to. They've come prepared to talk to their programs and to at least...
Oh, they will, because their base, the budget they're presenting is their base budget.
I understand, but they may also wish to talk to the motions before the board here, and I think in giving them the opportunity to do that, it may not change anybody's mind on this, but I think at least in a matter of fairness to allow them to do that. And they're talking the base budget, but they may have come fully prepared today to talk about some of their additional needs and what they would do with that. And so I think it'd be helpful to hear that and it's up to the chair if you want to call for a vote on the motion, but I would ask that we maybe defer on this till we have a chance to hear from them.
Yeah, they did make a presentation at the very beginning in terms of wanting the 20%.
Okay.
And I think what the motions before us is on the 10%.
Yep.
Okay.
There, of course, is the risk that after they present their budgets, we decide that it shouldn't even be 10%.
Well, that's always up to this board to decide that. Mr.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a, before us, please call the roll.
Could we
Who's the second?
clarify if we
What's
haven't quite
what is
taken
the
a
motion?
motion?
The motion was the 10%, and it was to be applied as a bonus, not billed to the base.
Subject to budget amendments.
Subject to the, they're going to come forward with the budget amendments.
And this was by Kurt.
Yes.
We're taking
No,
it
the
from Kurt.
motion was made by Yee. It was $135,000 to be distributed, and it was,
My
the motion
apologies,
was
I just
by-
didn't hear it as a formal
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
I have the
Councilman Yee
details.
did it, and Gora was the second.
Okay, thank you very much. Vote then, Kurth,
Aye.
Yee,
Aye.
Gora, Shelby,
Aye.
Natoli,
Aye.
Bassett,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Collins.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Supervisor Collin, now staff would seek your direction on what to do with the balance that you have not distributed of your excess revenue. The chart before you shows that there would be a 514,771 projected balance, and do you have direction for staff on what to do with that?
Okay, the discussion on that was, as I remember, Robbie Waters suggested that CAT could be distributed quarterly to the jurisdictions as the monies came in, or you could wait until May to distribute that to the jurisdictions. And at this time, would you rather just have
Have a report back on
report
that,
back
if it's a big.
and hold it in reserve now?
No, it's a question of cutting, 12 extra checks, or 9 extra checks and 3 extra journal vouchers. It is not a significant amount of work. Staff would prefer having your direction now if you have a...
I think it should be distributed as soon as available to the parent jurisdictions.
Okay. Certainly, I think most of us, the County of Sacramento is looking at its hotel motel, all right? And that's where we've got considerable problems. And those are also distributed out to the community. So I think if we want them distributed on a quarterly basis, we probably need a motion to that effect. And
Right. More importantly, you have not given staff direction to distribute any of it at this point. Separately is when to distribute.
okay, well, is the motion to distribute it and distribute it quarterly to the jurisdictions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Kurth,
Aye.
Yee,
Aye.
Gora,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
Natoli,
Aye.
Bassett, Waters,
Aye.
Collins.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Poorly framed.
Clear? Clear.
Okay, now we're going to B, the community programming grants, and the each jurisdiction is going to speak separately, and I do not know which order. They've got it with Penny on top. Is that how we're going to start it, Penny?
Right. Mr. Point
Yeah,
Stewart,
and-
my apologies. I've had a scheduling conflict when we came to the new time, and I promise I'll watch the tape of the meeting. So
You promise?
I hear and am informed at the next meeting as to each of the
Quiz
budget
him,
issues.
Penny.
Yes, I
next
will.
time
I
we
will
see
give him a
him.
test. As a teacher, I'll give him a test later. Yes, thank you. You're excused, Rob.
Just a true false.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
And we do appreciate, and we understand, these are hard times again, and we are all
Just
at the
when we-
mercy of somebody who seems to be above us each time. So that's why, looking at what you have to deal with for the future, we do understand as grantees of this. 1997-98 has been very successful for SECC. Enrollment in the distance learning classes continue to increase. The number of courses offered on cable increased, and the quality and quantity of educational programs for SECC Channel 71 and 72 increased. Most importantly, SECC achieved a greater involvement with students of Sacramento. Since a picture is worth 1,000 words, SECC has produced a short summary of our programs to illustrate in 3 minutes the year of programming for 71 and 72. And if you'll take a look at these are the 1998 winners of our Student Educational Video Awards, or the SEVAs.
We hope it's going to get going.
Hope the roll the
Somebody
tape.
must have the tape.
Yeah.
Roll the tape. Thanks, Penny.
At our SEVA Awards this year, we want to thank Roger Dickinson, Supervisor Roger Dickinson, for being there again to present awards, and we appreciate him being there. And it was very successful again. But SECC also has some big plans for 1998-99. A detailed account, if you'll notice in your annual plan for the budget, and that we have, and on pages 10 and 11. But this is basically with no addition. It basically is the base that we have worked on, and we will be coming back to you then with some other ideas that we have for the future. We encourage you to take a minute to review this, and our major goals are to continue the services that have been provided to the Sacramento for the past 13 years. We will continue to program our channels 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with video programming. All programs will be geared to the specific needs of our community. We will continue to increase the number of live programs, credit courses, and educational opportunities for a lifelong student. There will be special emphasis in the adult ed learner, ESL courses, GED, and job readiness. Through our many partners, SECC will expand in staff developing offerings and parent education classes. In closing our presentation this morning, we'd like to share some of the exciting news. SECC and its members have received 3 prestigious national awards. One of our San Juan High School productions at the ballet won the 1998 National Videographer Award. There were 1,839 entries from 42 states. Read more about this award on the corner of the June program guide, and that's the small program guide that you have here, about it in the June program guide and that you have in front of you. 2 of the SEC programs won the National Hometown Video Award, which will be presented in Portland next month. SECC is particularly proud of one of these winners because the student involvement in the project. The short award-winning program you are about to see was written, illustrated, and narrated by students. Carrot for the Prosecution is the winning story by a 7th grade student of agriculture in the classroom statewide. Imagine this, writing competition. Students wrote original stories which highlighted an aspect in agriculture. Winning stories were illustrated by local students and animated by SECC. Local students provided the voices and the narration. And And so we're going to watch that today, which is the 1998 Hometown Video Award. That's okay.
I like
and we
that.
have carrot for the prosecution. And we thank you again, and we will be back to you at a later date when you specify with some specific plans of what we plan to do with the additional funds. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Penny.
Carrot for the Prosecution by Ehud Apple.
An unidentified carrot lay dead in a lone field of the Imperial Valley. It was drenched in its own carotene from the attack not more than 4 hours before. My job? To find the killer. I began with the interrogation of Chris Carrot, a neighbor of the victim.
Oh yes, I've lived next to him since last spring when we first grew.
He replied to my demand.
I never learned his name, though.
Is there anyone who you think might be involved? I inquired.
He had a lot of enemies.
He stated.
I personally suspect Carter Carrot. I witnessed him leaving the scene of the crime as I arrived.
Did he have a motive?
Certainly. The victim was a beautiful carrot, always admired by Farmer Tom. Carter, on the other hand, was an older carrot. He was fibrous and bitter, unlike his foe who was young and tender. Even Carter's green foliage is now dead with the winter. My guess is that Carter was jealous. He took the opportunity while it was there.
You say Carter lost his foliage. Is that natural? I wondered curiously.
Yes,
said Chris.
It happens to all biennials in the winter.
And he leaned forward, revealing his bald head to me. Just as I left, he said in a whisper,
It may have been the water. It rained hard a few days ago, and I suspect the water drops may have revolted against the carrot, forcing it out of the soil.
I smiled and left. I was sitting in my office trying to piece this all together while waiting for a water drop to arrive for questioning. He arrived with a sly grin. Describe your relationship with the carrot, I commanded him.
Well, my associates and I, we come down when it rains and we help nourish all the carrots. We work closely with the sun and the water cycle.
Where were you when the murder took place?
I was right underneath the victim when I felt a sharp yank, and he was pulled out of the ground.
I thanked the drop and quickly got on my way. I had a hunch that I needed to follow. When I arrived at the farm, I detained Farmer Tom for questioning. What do you do with your carrots? I wanted to know.
Well, we pick the good ones in the fall and we rinse them. We then send them off to the cannery for profit.
What about the older ones?
They go into the compost heap.
He showed me the compost heap, a pile of refuse. A rat scurried by. That was it. I thanked the farmer and left. I returned to the corpse and noticed that it was gnawed at. I quickly issued an arrest warrant for Robbie the Rat. Robbie the Rat was arrested and tried for murder. Every year, thousands of crops are destroyed by vermin.
Who selected that name? Okay.
Move to reconsider
When in
at
doubt,
10%.
when in doubt, blame it on the kids, right? That was very,
Kevin
very
said-
cleverly done. A
Kevin
good
said
story.
move to reconsider that.
Okay, well, the next person I have is Jan Tillman. Jan, I guess you're up.
Could have picked a more appropriate name.
Good morning again. I'm Jan Tillman, Executive Director for KVIE's Programming and Production Services. I will be brief, but I would like to share with you some good things that are happening at KVIE. Most of you have had the opportunity to meet our new President and General Manager, David Hosling. He is a terrific and smart new leader for KVIE. He has a tremendous commitment to local programming and to education. I think you will see a lot of him. He is already very engaged in community activities. We have just completed our strategic planning and budgeting process for KVIE in the new fiscal year, and I'm very pleased to announce that two very important local weekly series that we produce will continue in the next year. California Capital Week, I hope all of you are familiar with that show. I think some of you have actually appeared on it. With our political reporter, Jack Kavanaugh, has become a highly respected political affairs series. And beginning in July, that is going to become a statewide series. This year, as we did in 1994, KVIE will be hosting gubernatorial debate. It will be live. It will be a statewide television and radio debate for governor. It will be closed caption, and it will also have Spanish language translation live. That's probably the highlight of the new year for California Capital Week, particularly in an election year. It's always exciting to be doing a political series. It's even more exciting this year because it is being distributed statewide. Central Valley Chronicles is a weekly magazine series. It's both informative and entertaining. It's really designed to reflect the community back to itself. One of the popular features of this series is profiles of people in the community who make a difference. There will be names that you recognize and when you see that segment on this series, and others that you may not be so familiar with but are nonetheless very important to the community. Another new regular feature of Central Valley Chronicles is called Neighborhoods, and literally our cameras are going to go into neighborhoods in our community and kind of take a look at the history and the culture and how they're part of our whole community. In more good news, very good news, our statewide series California Heartland has been renewed for a third season by our major funders, who are the California Farm Bureau and Cal Farm Insurance. Prosecution of the Carrot will be featured in California Heartland. That is also a statewide series, and we also work as a partner with Ag in the Classroom, and they actually distribute California Heartland segments into schools as our partner, which we're very grateful for. The Cable 7 service we provide has become a very integral part of KVIE's operation. In the 12 years or so, I think that we've been providing the service to the community. The station has planned for and supported a very important component of that service, and that is capital equipment. And as broadcasters, we are faced with the daunting conversion to digital. We're required to do that by the FCC. We have planned very carefully for that. It's a significant financial impact to the station. But as we do so, we must and we do include Channel 7 in those transition plans. In the coming year, we will acquire equipment for an upgrade to automated systems in our facility. That will include Channel 7. The component that we will have to acquire that will assist us in transmitting the cable service is a $30,000 acquisition. Because we have integrated our services, if we are going to upgrade it for Channel 6 broadcast operations, that commits us automatically to doing so for the Cable 7 operation as well. On both Channel 6 and Channel 7, we are going to introduce a new service, Ready to Learn. You will not see a lot different in the programming. This is the high-quality children's programming that we provide. This really is an outreach component. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting is providing a modest grant to stations to go on-site and assist daycare providers and young parents in using television to help children get ready to learn. I'm very pleased that SECC has agreed to be our partner in this effort. They already have a very substantial educational on-site effort, and so we're going to entrust this service to their hands so they will be able to help to enhance the television service that's being provided on Channel 6 and Channel 7. In closing, I'd just like to say our budget for the coming year for Channel 7 is $445,000 before G&A. Our grant from the Commission, our base grant, is $198,801. As you can see, KVIE substantially supports and augments the grant for the operation of Channel 7. The decision that you made this morning will increase that grant for KVIE by $19,880. And in this case, we will allocate that increase to support the cost of capital acquisition for the upgrade that we're going to be doing for Channel 7 in the coming year. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions for Jan? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
for coming. Ron Cooper? Reggie? Okay, they had them in a different order. Okay, we'll take Reggie first. Hi.
Hi, good morning. My name is Reggie Turan, and I am not only the chairman of the board of directors for Access Sacramento, I'm also a state employee. I'm a research program specialist for the Governor's Office of Criminal Justice Planning. And I'm also, I understand your labor problems because I am president of a district labor council for the California State Employees Association. So I definitely understand some of the problems you as a board are going through in your budget matters. But I'm here today mainly to talk to you about Access Sacramento. Access Sacramento is unique. It's unique because it serves all of the county of Sacramento. And I'm proud of the track record that Access has been providing to our community. We provide a unique series of trainings and services that helps those people in the community get a voice. We want to thank the Cable Commission for all the support in this effort. And I want to say that I joined Access because I believe that locally produced, skilled, well-trained individuals have something to offer to our community. The efforts of our workers, our volunteers, and the thousands of programs that are produced each year have enabled the Sacramento Comcast subscribers to get another side and to experience the rich cultural diversity that exists in Sacramento County. We've been working closely with the Sacramento City Unified School District, and we began to program English as a second language classes. And one of our achievements in this area is that we're proud to say that 25% of the programs on our two channels are basically non-English speaking services. We're trying to make a difference. Our training efforts have allowed us to expand not only with local schools and colleges, but we're also now providing media and computer skills to the constituents to help them succeed in this high-tech changing society of ours. Our collaborative efforts in the audio, video, and the internet are designed to help our region grow and designed to help us become an economic as well as a highly skilled powerhouse in this changing technologies. We're also proud of our youth services. Too often we hear the negative sides of our youth, and the youth of this community don't get the opportunity to show some of their services. We sponsor the Game of the Week each week, the Sacramento Youth Symphony. These are some of the endeavors that we try and we are proud to present. Our goal is to try to maximize the funds provided by the Cable Commission, and we try to provide innovative program that gives all the voices of Sacramento County an opportunity to be heard. We thank you for your support over the years and your continued funding. And I now would like to share with you a brief 3-minute videotape of some of the programming done at Access Sacramento.
Okay, thank you very much. There it goes.
It's wonderful to be here with you. I wish I was there right in person, but I'm excited about this endeavor that you're embarking on this morning, and I really am more enthused than you can know about the progress I think that we can make here in California in the near term, and even greater progress in the long term. Let me just say the whole country is having a conversation with itself about standards. California has done much, very much, in the last year or two along these lines.
The classroom portion of this show is brought to you by the Sacramento City Unified School District Adult Education Program. I'm Trish Kearns, and with me today, as always, is my teaching partner, Christine Hodgins. Christine teaches ESL at Fremont School for Adults, and I am at the Technology Learning Center downtown.
Why is this problem so difficult to fix?
Believe me, the problem is easy to fix.
Then why are my pies not cooking?
Finding the problem. That's the difficult part.
Well, I suggest you find it before we lose all of our customers.
I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. I believe in Mary's baby. I believe in God. I believe in Calvary. I believe in the cross. I believe when my Savior paid his cost. I believe he still works wonders. He's a God of miracles. Well, I believe if you
Gets it. And the clock will start now. And here's Tommy Stallworth faking a pitch. Here's Dante Stallworth. A pitch back. It's Ontario Smith, and you call that Mike Domino. And a takedown near the 40, and that's the ball game.
What a ball game.
And the bad part of the field, and a penalty marker comes out late in a wild scramble on that last tackle.
And I tell you what, I am really proud that our team and Grant were here. It was the two best teams in this area, and what an exciting game.
What kind of a patient, or burn, maybe I should say, does it take for Shriners Hospital to get involved? Or
Shriners Hospital will take all children. The requirements, you have to be under 18 years of age. And the Shriners just have decided, the organization, to give free care to children with burns.
You know, we're talking about kids. You see some of the pictures here, and this is after.
Oh, yeah.
Really, as a nurse and a doctor, what goes through your mind when a child comes in like that and they're just burned so terribly?
I know that Johnny's going to come back to me and he's going to show me things. He's going to come over and he'd say, see, I can raise my arm.
Right.
See, I can walk now.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, thank you. Ron, you're going to finish up?
Yes, please. I'm Ron Cooper, Executive Director of Access Sacramento. Once again, I want to echo the previous speakers' appreciation for your support over the years and very much for this one-time 10% increase. I think you can see from the samples and the descriptions that have been given today that we really honestly feel that if you were to look at other cities and the quantity and quality of programming that's produced by your grantees here in Sacramento, you would be astounded. And as you travel about the country, tune in to community programming in other cities, and I think you'll come back even prouder than you may feel right now. It's really an extraordinary resource. You saw the clip there that highlighted some of the collaborative efforts that we've enjoyed during the past year. We plan to continue those, particularly with our training partner and now programming partner, Cosumnes River College. You may have seen the live teleconference that was produced there with the State Department of Education. Of course, this serves local residents, schools, administrators, teachers, parents, and students, but it also, via the CRC teleconferencing center, is distributed statewide and has provided a very efficient, cost-effective way for the State Department of Education to implement statewide standards. And Access Sacramento is the production entity in doing that. Also, because of your mandate for Access Sacramento to seek additional sources of revenue without impacting the local production for local citizenry. And we've been able to do that by these unique partnerships. In the coming year, we also anticipate you'll hear a lot more about our most recent agreement with the El Camino High School and the San Juan Unified School District for shared use of their broadcast radio frequency, KYDS 91.5. During the summer months, 24 hours a day, you are hearing KCBL Community Radio, which has been 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for more than 10 years now. But you had to hook up the cable and a splitter to the cable to hear the radio. And the only time you could hear it on the cable system-wide was when our bulletin board was up. But now, during the summer months, from 5 p.m. through the evening till 7 a.m. and weekends, KCBL can be heard broadcast that actually extends beyond the county of Sacramento. It's 500 watts, broadcast 91.5. So we really take great pride in that partnership because for the first time in history, Sacramento County now has community radio broadcast. And we will endeavor to continue the same quest that we've had, and that is going to be our motto for the coming year, that Access Sacramento makes a difference in the county of Sacramento, one voice at a time, one organization at a time. We feel that media, to really be effective as a tool of communication in our community, must be available to all. Not simply their choices of what they'd like to watch on the cable system, but to have the opportunity to actually create from their own unique point of view, perspective, featuring their own culture, their own language, their own politics, their own religion, and that's a very valuable and very unique service. So we plan to continue the programming that we have been doing. We plan to expand with our radio programming in the future, and at a near future date we will come back with a report in terms of how we will wisely expend the 10% increase that you voted today. At this juncture, it will probably be in the area of a recent long-range planning update that the board held, focused on greater facilitation of our volunteer production teams, even greater training opportunities, and how we might affect those more efficiently. We're getting calls from many of you and your colleagues. Basically put is, there's a wonderful event, it's happening tomorrow, could you send a crew? For those of you who have facilitated volunteers, it doesn't quite work that way, but I'm always amazed at the wonderful way that our volunteers do respond, and we try in every instance to provide these types of videotaping, radio, and internet opportunities for all of our citizens. So once again, appreciate the support. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks very much. Okay. Michael Lazar. Morning.
Hi, I'm Mike Lazar. I'm President and General Manager of Capital Public Radio, which is a parent organization for KXPR, KXJZ, and I'm glad to have the first opportunity in some cases to meet some of you, and it's nice to be here. 1998 is really shaping up as a big year for us on the radio side. In January, we adopted a new corporate name. Our new name is Capital Public Radio, Inc. We changed it from KXPR, KXJZ, Inc. because we've grown a lot. It didn't reflect truly the expansion of public radio services, and I think the new one really does show our growth and maturity beyond just the initial two stations. We have had a lot of things going on in the last year. We've implemented our first strategic plan, which is being updated every year and are really setting a firm direction for us there. We've hired our first ever news director, Rob Schober. Maybe some of you have gotten to meet him already, and we're already seeing a noticeable increase in the local and regional material on the air. It gives us a chance to really look at the region, show its strength, and we're also working on expanding our statewide news service by opening up a downtown bureau and revitalizing and adding to our staff to create more material that's on both Metro Cable and on our own stations. We're also adding to the number of signals in town. We launched a new station that's serving primarily the Lake Tahoe Basin and Reno, but also has a measurable and listenable signal in Sacramento. It's KKTO at 90.5 and has a full schedule of National Public Radio news and talk programs, and we're getting quite a bit of listenership in Sacramento for that. We're continuing and expanding our bringing live music to the people of the Sacramento area. We're continuing with 7 this year, actually 8 different concerts, live jazz and classical concerts in Old Sacramento, and we kicked off our season this past Tuesday night at the Sacramento Zoo. We had over 1,000 people there listening to a live jazz band, families with picnics and little kids dancing in front of the band. It was a wonderful experience, and the zoo really appreciated the fact that we could bring the people in like that. As with TV, we're facing the conversion to digital. We will be purchasing in the next 30 to 60 days our first digital workstations and digital storage devices so that we can get rid of the old razor blades and splicing tape and do things on computer screens much more productive, get a lot more mileage out of things, and serve people with what they're used to hearing. We're also increasing our commitment the 10th anniversary of National Public Radio's Car Talk, and we'll be announcing plans on the air in the next couple of days about that.
I think what they're talking about is our system went down, and there it's coming back now.
Back?
Okay, sorry. Do you want to go back? Oops.
At a radio conference, the microphones never work, so we're used to this.
That doesn't usually happen, so we don't know what's happened.
When did you get that digital equipment, Rich?
The county owns this stuff.
This. Yeah. So,
But
the whole cable system went down. All our screens went blank.
Interesting.
We get, although it's a relatively small amount in proportion to your total dollars. On radio, we do things pretty cheaply, and that money really makes a difference, especially in what we're trying to do in increasing our local news coverage. It makes a big difference, and we thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Now they're trying to bring up the system again, so we'll proceed ahead because we're going to lose people. Jeannie Starks.
I have to talk loud.
No, the system's back up again. So.
Well, good morning. I'm going to be brief. I'm the program director for RCC TV Channel 75. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for your support over the number of years for providing this channel to the community. Currently, we are still on 24 hours a day, and that includes 28 hours of 3 satellite feeds that we receive. These are interfaith channels. And we provide 40 hours of locally produced or locally sponsored faith programming. We at RCC TV really believe the scope of everyone's faith in our community is very vital and valuable, and we just wanted to thank you. We receive and sustain our expenses through our producer fees, which are very minimal. For locally sponsored or locally produced programs, our fees are $25 per half hour. Or an hour program, it's $50. So over the years, since I've been there about 5.5 years, it's a minimal amount, but it really has sustained us. We may not have the sophisticated equipment as some of the other access channels, but we do the best that we're able to. We have no video. I just suggest, on occasion, if you do have cable, please do watch Channel 75. There's some wonderful programs that come through our satellite series as well as our locally produced programs. Our budget is very, very low, but it does cover our expenses. It's about $80,000. We're a small staff. I would like to share with the other channels that are getting allocations to their budgets, please remember us when you're upgrading your equipment, because we could certainly use equipment. I also want to thank Ron. He's been very, very helpful with the public access. He's really kept us updated. And that's very much the place where we send individuals of the faith community that want to learn more about television or would like to air their programmings on cable. And without public access, there wouldn't be a lot of avenues for them. So I do want to thank you. This is going to be my last year as program director over there. It's been a pleasure and an opportunity working for RCC TV. And the gentleman behind me, Kim Jackson, will be taking my position. But anyway, I want to thank you and thank you for all of your support for all of these years, and we hope we can maintain and keep that channel.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, thank you very much. You've done a good job. Thanks. Okay. We're going now to Rich. In your budget, you want to go quickly through that?
Right. I'd like to recap on items A and B. Some of you get to your finance officers before I can, but let me give you the totals. The total allocation to the parental jurisdictions for next year, including your base. The county is at 779,346. The city 496,469. City of Citrus Heights 110,209. City of Folsom 57,639. And Galt, City of Galt 21,107. And your total allocation to your total distribution to the parental entities is $1,464,771. It's almost exactly $300,000 more than your total distribution in the current year. I'll get a memo out with your final budget action to all of the finance officers early next week. Relative to
let me ask a question in terms of if it's that much more on, and you made the motion for the $135,000 grant. I think what you need to explain is how it got there.
Okay. I don't know if the staff.
But you can do that in your recap later.
Yeah. This is net of all that. If the staff want to grab this screen, you'll have it in front of you. Let me now, if you will, address the commission's operating budget. As we've done for many years, and Diane does an excellent job, we've provided you a spreadsheet in the report as an attachment, which gives you comparisons, line item, year to year, budget to budget, as well as actual to budget. And if you want more detail, we can take this back for you. Overall, the operating budget has a minus 4.8% year to year. That looks at the total of many things, but one is that we've had some savings in retirement costs with PERS. Many of you are aware of that. We've had some other insurance reductions and a few other things. If you'd like to go into detail of the line items, I'd be happy to address them point by point. But overall, your budget shows a 3.8% year-to-year reduction. For Metro 14, I already briefly mentioned that we're not quite there yet for the system upgrade. We'll go back and look now with your decision today for the 10% one-time grant, where we stand. Some of the other things about Metro 14, as the other community programming grantees get up, I need to tell you something about your channel. Recall that last year we started marketing our services to assist with PowerPoint presentations, part which you've been getting now. We increased those by 50% last year, and you're starting to see those in the smaller cities. In Folsom and Galt, we have the ability now to not only do it technically, but we have a pretty sharp staff who support department heads in every jurisdiction in doing those presentations to you. That's one thing. Second, if you happen to catch election results last week, we did a little Sacramento history education that I thought that went over very, very well. If you didn't catch it, on the right side of the screen, the staff put up trivia questions. When did the first levee get built? When did the first levee break? And it was an excellent history lesson. Besides the homework involved, there was some technical stuff of making the system do what it isn't really supposed to do, and mixing in the live election feed. We're working with the city of Citrus Heights in designing their council chamber and setting up lights, cameras, and all that. We've done that now in every jurisdiction. We're getting ready to do a mini remodel here, again in this chambers. And I'm pointing out, and I have a recommendation in the staff report based on a personnel study I requested for a job reclass. That is that the position last year that we took from our production assistants and assigned the additional responsibility of the audio and visual equipment in this chamber to, I asked the county personnel office, and they then referred me to the cooperative personnel services entity to look at it. And their recommendation is that we adjust the salary and the job specs of that, primarily because those duties are those engineering technical duties relative to this chamber are taking up about 30% of that individual's time. So the study is there. I'd be happy to take any questions on that relative to Metro. Moving along, our litigation continues on the protective lawsuit that has now been deferred twice from the trial. If you recall, last time I reported to you that we'd had and failed at a settlement discussion. The trial was then scheduled in May, then scheduled in June. Looks like it might be October now. But the expenses on that have reduced from the $313,000 last year to about $120,000 this year. You've already made a decision on payments to the parental entities, so sub-item 5 I feel that you've already addressed. Relative to agreements, there's one to renew the annual renewal for your commission council. It is routine and no changes there. For Metro 14, we do occasionally send equipment out to engineering firm, not very much, but we use that as backup when we need the tape decks rebuilt, et cetera. And the county council has advised the county risk manager, who is essentially our insurance broker, to after 15 years have an agreement with us. There's no budgetary change, but they wanted to formalize who was responsible for what in our relationship. So we've included that and recommend that for your approval as well. But again, it doesn't change the numbers, and in fact, our insurance profile has gotten healthier, and the county risk manager has gotten more assertive. So we've been actually doing better in reducing our insurance costs. That's a general overview of the Commission's operating budget. And by operating, that includes the administration and regulation components of your operation and Metro 14. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
I'm going to start off a couple of questions in terms of just, Rich, the way we have to adjust these figures now, because the board made the decision, or the commission did, relating to the distribution. And in doing those figures, I'm looking over here, community programming activities, excess fund balance distribution, page 2 of your report. And then you can go back to the resolution stuff. But, when I look at that, yeah, the 1.352293 is the base proposed for 98.99. Is that with the commissions, with Metro Cable 14 in or out?
In. That is the total.
Okay, it's in. So when you add one $35,000 grant to that, that comes out to me $1,487,293. Is that correct?
That sounds correct. I tried to run those numbers when the other people were speaking. I have $1,047,522.
Why does it come out 522 if it's 293 and we did a 135,000?
It was rounded. The exacts were 1,350,000. It was 135,229 is the full.
That was not the motion, but...
I'm sorry. I understood the motion to be at 10%.
Oh.
He said 135,000.
I said 135,000, which is the round number.
But the motion was 10%, if I recall. That was the motion.
Yeah, I understood the motion to be that the 10% recommendation at the 135 rounded level.
Okay, so that's the only difference then. That was mine. So it was the 229. So it was at the 10%. Okay. That clears up why the figures didn't match.
Okay? We'll have to...
And then you'll have to readjust on this resolution.
That's correct. We do know that your total budget is as referenced in the resolution plus $1 million. The budget as recommended to you here is, let me get that right number so we can read it into the record, and we'll be okay with the resolution. And the record will show that you've augmented accordingly, but gotta find the right attachment. Thanks, Harriet. For the record, the budget as recommended was $2,381,281.
Correct.
You've taken $1 million from excess revenue and added it to that with directions on how to disperse that within the sub-items. But your new budget will be $3,381,281.
Okay. And so the budget resolution has to show that one, and it shows then it'll have to change all those appropriation figures all the way through.
Most of them. It wouldn't change.
Except for, like, number 1
right.
would change somewhat. B doesn't change. C changes. D, you don't need a change. And E, you need a change, though, correct?
Right. There will be a series of changes to the sub-numbers, which we'll put together and put in your final resolution.
Okay, so the action that we take today will be tentative?
No,
Because this is not, is this the final budget resolution? If it is, then we need
This would
to...
be intended as the final budget resolution, and the numbers would be adjusted in accordance with the motions that you made earlier.
Okay. And then, so we have adoption, we have 2 action items before us, right? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion now? We have no one signed up to speak on this item.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to adopt the budget resolution, which totals now $3,381,281 for both the preliminary and final budget with the figures as adjusted. And the second one is the resolution relating to legal counsel. Okay.
Did you take both the same motion?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All
of the agreements. There's 3 agreements: county risk management, the
Right.
engineering, and legal
general counsel. That is the motion then, just so to be clear.
Yes, it's
Okay, well, I want to be
it's
sure.
all of them.
That was-
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, unanimous of those present. And we can move on then to the next agenda item, which are D1, which is Executive Director's employment contract, which is automatically renewed if we do not take action to take a different type of action. So
I move that we take no action.
Harriet, is that?
There's no requirement to take action. In fact, the way your contract is set up, one of the board members needed to request that action be taken today. This was a placeholder. And no board member asked that action be taken on this so that the contract would automatically renew.
Be renewed, okay. Automatic, you like what he's doing. Okay, great. Then, if we don't need anything on that, can we go now to Comcast?
Right, this is Comcast's opportunity to update you on your affirmative action plan and other comments.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask, it's possible that, I don't know what the other time commitments are, and I wanted to be part of this discussion, and
on Comcast?
Comcast, the affirmative action report. Can we continue this to our next meeting? Is it possible? Meeting?
Yeah, I don't know what the...
Because I think
my commitment is a noon commitment. I don't know what others...
Mine's 11:30.
Oh, okay.
Is there any time? This
Madam
is just
Chair,
a status update, isn't it?
I think that the staff recommendation on this was to refer it to the City of Sacramento officer to analyze the report and then report back to you. So you may want to take that action just to get the analysis rolling to come back at a future meeting.
Okay.
I think we have one public member that wanted to...
There's Marion Bill Holmes, there's Joe Stinson I know is here, and then Ruth is here also. And the normal process that we use is that, just to bring up to date, we usually go ahead and let Comcast deliver that report. The report is then referred to the city's affirmative action officer, which is what we use as our referral base to analyze, and then it is scheduled again to come back before the commission. So that typically is the process that's used, and Marion Holmes, you want to come forward? I'm sorry, and just make a short comment because we will refer it to the city. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to see you all again.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Marion Bell Holmes, the Human Resources Director for Comcast, and I was before the board in September of last year, and I presented our 7-month 1997 report. What I'd like to do today is just very briefly go over some information that you've already received. And when I was here prior, we committed to come back before you to complete our 1997 plan and then to also present projections for 1998. You've gotten a copy of the complete plan. I'm pleased to, I think, report that for the 5-month period of August 1st through December 31st, we were able to, I think, make some very good progress towards goals that we had set. You've got some information in your packets. There's a results to plan chart, and I've also got some narrative. But basically, we had set a goal to hire 1 minority and 1 female in our professional category. We were able to exceed our female hire goals. We actually hired 2 females and we promoted 3 females. We did not meet the minority hiring goal in that category. In the technician area, we were not able to meet our goal of hiring 1 female and promoting 1 minority. However, we are still working progressively to increase our applicant flow in that area. Okay. This, again, is one of those feeder groups, the technician area, that is very difficult to attract females into the technical ranks, so we're still working on that. In our sales workers category, we had 1 goal to hire a female. We exceeded that goal tremendously. We actually hired 7 females and 6 minorities in this area. And again, these are just 5-month activities through 1997. In our office and clerical workers job groups, we had a goal to hire 7 females. We actually exceeded that goal by hiring 17 females and 15 minority hires. I'd like to also point out that although we didn't establish a goal in our officials and managers job group, we were actually able to place 1 female in that management job group. I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions from the board or other members. I did not go over the complete plan. As you see, it's very detailed, and I know that plan has been submitted to Mr. Fleming as well. So.
Okay, well, we'll schedule this then. Thank you for being here, but we will schedule it for, I think, the next meeting. Will he be able to meet that timetable from the city standpoint?
Yes, we'll be talking momentarily about when to meet next. We have some scheduling problems,
okay,
but to say the next meeting is fine.
Okay, so it will be scheduled at the next meeting then. So thank you. If you'll be here then also.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Okay, Joe, did you want to be here on it now or next time?
Now?
Yeah, you could now, or you could just come next time, whichever you prefer.
I'll just do it now.
Okay, Joe, go ahead then.
Good morning. I want to thank you for allowing me to address you. My issue is for Comcast, and our issue with the administration, particularly experienced by the Observer. My name is Joe Stinson. I'm assistant to the publisher and director of advertising. The prior administration that was known as Sacramento Cable, we felt we had a good relationship with them, and we are a business. We do survive because of advertisement and all of that. But we do more than advertise. We serve the community. I know for 35 years, I think our product reflects who we are, what we do. We do a lot of value-added information to our readers. We have had a negative experience with the current Comcast. All last year, most of last year, we tried desperately to get an appointment with the executive director. We were very unsuccessful in that effort. One day, after trying so many times and getting postponed and canceled, my boss and I decided, let's go out there. We did go out there, and it was such a hostile, unfavorable feeling. And my boss had discussed this with a number of council members. One of the last things that was discussed with the late Sam Pennell was about cable, and Sam offered to go out with us and meet with the executive director since he had heard some of the problems that we have had. My question today is that if you look on their plan or as it published here, they say they are utilizing minority media. Not one, to my knowledge, not one line of advertising has been placed with the Observer. They talk about some other areas here, but instead of boring you with this, the relationship is unfavorable. It's a hostile environment. Just to be sure, last year we tried. Last month, one of my staff went out to attempt to get an appointment. They refused to do it. I could go on. We could come back at another time and go into more details, but I want you to know of the kind of atmosphere we're working in. I notice on here you talk in terms of renewal of the executive director employment. I think some consideration need to be listened to before you take that. I'll take any questions anyone may have.
Okay, Ruth is here.
He's confused on this executive director, Joe.
Yeah, he doesn't have any.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Joe, Comcast is a separate entity of its own. It's a private business, and he is an employee of the Cable Commission, so he has nothing to do. The executive director of the Cable Commission has nothing to do with Comcast. You're getting those confused. But I would like to say that I'm very troubled by what you just said now, and I'd like you personally to come. I'd personally like you to come back when we hear this again, and certainly I'm going to ask Comcast to give their side of the story on this, because this is appalling if in fact what you say is accurate.
Be happy to. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, in terms now of the status reports, Ruth Blank.
I'm Ruth Blank, General Manager for Comcast, and I'll just take a second to respond to what Mr. Stinson said, and I think we have to separate his issue into two categories, and one is advertising, and Dr. Lee and Mr. Stinson approached us about advertising. I can't remember when it was, 6 or 7 months ago, I think. And the response that I gave at the time, which is still our response, is that our marketing budget has been slashed by about 50% in the past few years, and the Sacramento Bee could come and make the same claims. We no longer advertise in the Bee for marketing purposes, and that was what Dr. Lee and Mr. Stinson had approached us about. So I'm a little confused about why it came up in the affirmative action section, unless Mr. Stinson was talking about doing outreach for job positions, and perhaps Marion, would you like to address that?
Let me just make a comment before she comes up.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to hear it all today, but we'll certainly allow you to say.
The issue with me is not whether you choose to advertise with the Bee or with anybody. What I'm hearing, and what I want you to come back with, Ruth, next meeting, is an answer to these allegations that you refused to meet with Dr. Lee.
Well, I did meet with Dr. Lee and Mr. Stinson.
I'm just saying what I just heard, and I'd like an answer to that next time, please.
Okay. Well, a meeting did take place, and that's what I can tell you.
Okay.
I've just given Mr. Stinson my card. The advertising and outreach that I speak to has to do with job placements. I did not include a list of all of those advertisers here in this report. Again, it's abbreviated. I have not met with Mr. Stinson. I just gave him my card. I'd be more than happy to do so because we are always looking to advertise in the media for positions and et cetera. And in fact, we're looking to expand our list for that. So I'm extending that invitation today. It has to do with, again, my portion has to do with outreach. We advertise for positions. We keep statements in several minority magazines. in newspapers. In fact, I get calls every day, and I have not received a call from this particular organization, but I will meet with them, and we will go forward on that end.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just wanted to cover a couple of things in my status report, and a couple of things that Rich might also comment on. Our license fee payment, our quarterly license fee payment was late, to my knowledge, for the first time. It was a week late, and it was due to a series of errors, and as I said, I'm not aware that it's happened before, and we certainly commit that it won't happen again. And an interest payment has also been delivered to Rich to cover the week that it was late. There was also the first certification of our 97 payments. There was a little bit of a clarifying process that went on there, and I think that that's been worked out, and we're ready to have certification as the executive director wishes to see it in the future. I also wanted to let you know about a couple of very positive things. We've recently revamped our call center so that it's now a state-of-the-art call center with computers on every desk. It's a great-looking place, and I invite you all to come see it. It's very impressive. And along with that, I think that our call statistics for the past several months have also been very impressive. We've met our own goals of answering calls in 30 seconds for quite a long period of time now, at least the past couple of months, and there's no, we're staffed properly so that there's no reason to think that that won't continue on a regular basis. And we're always very, very involved in the community. I assume that everybody sees us out in the community on a regular basis, and there are just a couple of things lately that I'm particularly proud of that I wanted to mention. And one is, in April, we conducted a marketing campaign that was free installation for 4 cans of food, and this was to benefit the Sacramento Food Bank, with whom we have a very close relationship. And so in April, which is not a good time for the food bank because people tend to focus on the holidays, we donated 9,000 cans of food that we had collected from our customers. And also, late last year, we donated 45,000 pounds of food and $25,000 that was a result of a similar kind of campaign. So Comcast, working with its customers in Sacramento, has been able to really provide the food bank with some sustenance. Another thing that we participated in, as some others have, is Christmas in April, and we're very proud of this because this is something that really rallies our employees. About 20 or 30 of our employees spent a Saturday renovating a house in Del Paso Heights, and this is something that we've done for a couple of years. And it was a home of an 80-year-old woman that really needed quite a bit of work, and it makes the employees feel good, and we're very glad to be able to contribute in more ways than just dollars, but with time and with food and so forth. So just wanted to let you know about that. Also, as I mentioned in the last meeting, we are going to be launching digital cable. We're very proud of that, and the announcement has been made, and we are going to be having a demonstration next week to which you'll all be invited, and I would hope that you'd be able to come and see what digital cable looks like. That's going to be rolled out to customers in a few weeks, and you'll also be able to see our call center at the same time. So you'll be getting an invitation. I hope to see you there.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Robbie Waters.
Ruth, Comcast and TV Guide have partnered up to send out free TV guides to customers of Comcast. Is that going to take an affirmative action of the people receiving those at the end of the trial period, or are we going to get the book of the month billed to us if we don't cancel it?
It's an affirmative.
So we don't have to do anything
No.
as a customer to automatically go away if we don't want
Correct.
it? Thank you.
Okay. Ruth, I just wanted to also compliment, too. For some reason, some strange reason or other, I did not receive my Comcast bill, and so I called that was last month. You weren't alone. It was 3 or 4 others that were mailed locally. I just never received in. So I called to find out what the process is when, you're making out checks and you know that it should have come in. And I did not get the name of the young man, but he was absolutely excellent. The phone was answered in a quick manner. information was given promptly, telling me, how I could handle it, different ways I could handle it, and so I just wanted to compliment you that he did a marvelous job. I'm just sorry I didn't get his name.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd add that I think Ruth missed one. Comcast is pulling new wires into this building today to improve the signal quality on 14. I'm sorry, tomorrow. So that's another thing that the company's doing for us. You may see a couple of outages on 14 tomorrow as they make the switch over. Just short.
Okay. Thanks very much. Now we have just one more item before the public opportunity to discuss matters, and it's the meeting schedule, etc. It's your report.
Right. Just a couple of quick staff things. Your next scheduled meeting is when, as I've got it right, when the Board of Supervisors is on vacation in July. Mm-hmm. The August meeting, if I've got it right, the City Council has made a schedule change on top of us. The choices would be to, I don't think we can get a quorum for July. For August, we can get a quorum, but we'd have to reschedule. As of now, the only item that you've moved forward or pushed is the issue of the affirmative action report. So the options are to call a meeting on a different date in August, or to not meet again until your normal September first Thursday meeting.
And what would that date be?
That's September 3rd.
September 3rd. Any objections if we go to September 3rd by members? Okay. So what affirmative action do we have to take? We have to cancel the July and August meetings to.
Yes.
And we can announce that today, and then you can also post that announcement?
That's cool.
Okay.
So moved.
So we'll moved and seconded to cancel July and August meetings, go to September. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? So that's unanimous of those present.
Final point that Ruth touched on briefly, but let me bring it into perspective for you. The cable company was late making their payment. They got a late fee notice. I copied you on that.
Right.
The cable company paid the late fee. I gave you a copy that late fee was $1,450. The offset is, as Ruth mentioned, per the ordinance, their audit certifications came in this week, where their auditor goes back through all the numbers, and it turns out that they overpaid us by about $2,100. So it kind of balances.
Okay. Are there anyone here wishing to be heard on an item not on our agenda? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.